Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Wharton. I've been an entrepreneur since 1999, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be to build a business without the right mindset. This is a podcast for those of us who struggle with showing up in our business with confidence and authenticity, who resist taking big action because of fears and doubts, who know deep down that it's possible to create something bigger, and yet you're not. This podcast combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset, along with practical business tips to grow your business more easily in a way that feels aligned. This podcast features solo shows with me and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world, including my monthly co-hosted episodes with Joe Casey. My goal is to help you grow your business more quickly and easily by transforming your mindset. For me, mindset work is a lifelong practice, and I want to help you make a habit out of mindset work. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm back with another episode of BMP Selects. Today, we're going way back into the vault because I'm sharing episode number 3. That's right, episode number 3, which was one of the first 3 episodes that went live together on August 12th, 2013. That's over 5 years ago. I can't believe this is that old. I chose this episode because I think it's a great episode. It's also one of the most popular episodes. So this is How to Discover Your Life Purpose with Helen Elizabeth Evans. Helen is someone I know from my real life world, from my offline world. And I originally met her in London at an event and eventually signed up for one of her workshops. It was called the Discover Your Life Purpose workshop. So she emails you a kit to take your handprints. From that, she does a reading of your hands. And in the workshop, she covered all the different details that are found in our hands that make up our life purpose. Whatever you may think of palmistry, that's not this. It was super accurate. She highlighted growth opportunities and challenges, stuff to focus on in personal development work. Like, it was really, really interesting. It was a lot of fun. And I think you'll find this episode to be particularly fascinating. There's a lot of information you can get from your hands. And Helen calls this scientific handprint analysis because it's not fortune telling. And it is very different from palmistry. So you will learn how scientific handprint analysis differs from palmistry and what it can do for you. You'll learn what type of information is stored in your hands and how getting your handprints analyzed can help you with your business. Isn't this fun? It's super exciting. Learn more about this and whether you might want to have this done for you in this episode. Hope you find it interesting and useful. And without further ado, I will hand you over to episode 3 from the vault. Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast. This is Holly Wharton, and today your guest is Helen Elizabeth Evans of Step Into Your Light. Welcome, Helen.
Hi, Holly. Great to be here.
Thank you very much for coming. Helen is an expert in handprint analysis, and that's what her business is based around. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your background.
My background, well, very simply, my parents are British, but they met in Africa, and so my siblings and I were all born in Africa. I was born in Swaziland, and I grew up in the bush, so to speak, and went to boarding school in South Africa from there. So that was kind of my early years. And then I wanted to be an architect. I'd always wanted to be an architect, always drawing and doing all sorts of stuff like that. And of course, when it came time to actually go to university and become an architect, my father thought that was a bad idea because it wasn't the kind of job that a girl should do. And I mean, we all have that experience of where we have a passion and we're pushing for something, and then there's these huge roadblocks that put in the way. And the interesting thing I think that often happens is that as a child, you don't understand your power. Even if you're 18 or 19, there are a few people out there I admire enormously at that age kind of go, well, you said no, but I'm still going to find a way to do this. I wasn't one of those kids. I was kind of much more used to doing what I was told. I was a rebel, but not completely,
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't imagine how I could possibly do 7 years of architecture school, pay for my accommodation and pay for university and plus, what if I didn't pass?
Yes.
So there was all these reasons why I couldn't do it, and so without support around me, I didn't feel like I could do it, and it was a case of like, now what? And The next thing that had come out on my aptitude test was that I would be excellent at systems analysis, which is fundamentally, creating systems using computers. So I was persuaded to go and study business with a computer's angle. And, I learned an enormous amount studying that, but I have to tell you that I was never that excited, never that thrilled by it. I was quite good at it. I did very well, but I never wanted to do it from a career perspective. Especially the computer side of things. It just never, thrilled me. And I thought, if my life is going to be like this for the rest of my life, I think that I will be getting the knives out and doing my wrists, So I was like, no way am I doing this. But at the same time, I wasn't comfortable about being an out-and-out rebel. So I'd always wanted to come back to the UK. I'd always had that opportunity. And so that basically I just, bought a plane ticket and thought, well, we're going to London and let's just see what happens. It was a very scary thing to do, but I felt very drawn to do it. And so I was willing to do it, and anything to get away from the future that I saw for myself. And so that's kind of how I started my adult journey.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about your business journey. How did you get to where you are now with your business?
Well, my background in terms of business was that, I was a little bit of a conformist, I think, as most of us are, because it's much safer ultimately to do what's expected of you, to follow the well-trodden path, So I was like, well, you go to university, you get your degree, and then you get a job in business, and then you climb your way up the ladder in business, and along the way you meet the right man, and you marry him, and you have a boy, and you have a girl, or whatever it is. You see what I mean?
Yes.
That was kind of my whole expectation journey. And my family are not entrepreneurs, but they're kind of that way inclined because they're all very much business orientated. So there was a little bit of that expectation, although, there was a typical thing of, well, how could a girl really be an entrepreneur, Well, she's kind of got that energy in every girl. So I did the thing. So I fell by accident into, and I've always found, by the way, that my accidents have worked out much better for me than when I've actually tried to be logical and make plans logically. But anyway, by accident, I got into what was then the Pathé Group, which was a group making the movies. And I've always been into movies, and I love the movies big time. And I just thought, oh God, it'd be lovely to work on the movies. But I never felt comfortable enough to be on the artistic side of things. So I got into the background, and I was helping with accounting. Not my thing, but I was helping in that area, and it was a nice way to kind of be involved in that. And then I got more involved in kind of management, organisation side. But they bought MGM, with the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Cinema, so I got to be involved a bit with things like the Pathé House, Thelma Louise, not the Pathé House, the Russia House, sorry. Thelma Louise and a number of other movies, which is kind of fun, and it was kind of fun to see the background of business, although, by the way, it's not nearly as exciting as you think it is. But then what happened is they split the business into the cinema side of the business and into the movie side of the business, and I actually found the cinema side, the bit which you bring people in to have that enjoyed experience, was much more interesting to me. And then again, by accident, somebody said, we think you'd be great at this, come into this side of the business, you can do this. And so I kind of worked my way up in the company, and eventually because I had such a big mouth and I kept winding on about the fact that they never seemed to care about their customers. And the whole business was based on, who steals what. Our customers are going to steal from us, so how can we protect our business from our customers stealing from us, which just floored me. I basically got into change management without understanding it was change management. And they helped me to create the first customer services department in the UK, so for the cinema industry. And so that was my thing. I started as a one-man band in the customer services department and grew the department until we were actually offering some kind of service to our customers. And that was fun. I loved that. But at the same time, I kept getting promoted all the way up, and I kept thinking, some point somebody's going to have some idea that they have no idea what I'm doing, and they're going to find out, and then I'm out of here. But I just kept getting promoted. They seemed to be kind of happy with what I was doing. And I think one thing I've learned in life is, by the way, when you feel like that, when you feel that when somebody keeps promoting you, or when people keep putting you into positions where you kind of go, I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't really want them to know that I don't know what I'm doing, there's a sure sign that you actually have a gift for that, but you're not owning it.
That makes sense. And they're seeing something that you're not seeing in yourself.
Absolutely. And you've got to actually start paying attention when people are putting you into positions that you think. You keep going, why are they putting me in this? I really have no idea what I'm doing. Pay attention to what those similar roles are each time, because there's a little story in that for you. And anyway, so that kind of happened, and then eventually Virgin bought MGM Cinema section, and I worked for them for about 6 months, and I decided that, they clearly weren't moving forward in any real kind of a way, in a way that I felt was dynamic and interesting, because I'm kind of one of these people, I like to do stuff, right? And there was nothing much happening. We were virtually at stasis. They didn't seem to know what they were doing. And I kind of just didn't feel, I guess I didn't feel safe, actually. I've never thought about it that way, but maybe I didn't feel safe with them. I just felt like they didn't really know what they were doing. So I decided to do what I call a logical choice and go and, amalgamate my computer training and my customer service understanding of the business and go and work for the company that supplied computers to the cinemas. Okay. Big mistake. Never do anything logically, because it sure as heck that very rarely works out. And by the way, I'm very logical and it all makes sense. But if your heart isn't into it, then it's not the right thing. You need to be led in some way by something within you that this really feels like the right thing, as opposed to just doing it for the sake of doing it. Because I was trying to tick boxes by trying to get, that CV, that perfect-looking CV. A lot of things went wrong with that job. My biggest learning from that was I discovered I had ethics, which they didn't have, and that made me very, very, I like to refer to them as an ethically challenged company.
Oh, not good.
Exactly, but there's a huge learning in that for you, because there's an understanding of who you are and what is okay for you and what your boundaries really are and what you need to know and what you don't need to know, because previous to that I hadn't really thought about that at all. Anyway, I subsequently became very ill. And I'm one of these people, when I do something, I commit to it, and I don't leave. So I need somebody to chuck me out, right? And so that's eventually what happened, because I was very ill. They obviously didn't want to pay for somebody who was going to be ill on a long-term basis, so they fired me. And the worst thing anybody could have possibly considered doing to me was to fire me. I mean, it's the worst form of rejection as far as I was concerned. I could be jilted by a lover, I didn't care, but if you rejected me based on my abilities, that was the worst thing on earth. And yet, when he said to me, we want to let you go, it was like somebody took this huge weight off my shoulders.
Wow.
And I went, oh, thank you so much. I was so thrilled. I've never felt joy at the same level since, I don't think. I was just like so liberated. And I think and I would share that part of the story for anybody who's kind of been made redundant recently or anything like that. Honestly, best thing that ever happened to me. I was very ill though, so I couldn't go back into working in a normal environment. And again, this is how the universe works. It forces you into situations where you have to find a new way of being, a new way of doing, and often that can lead you to a path that is much more useful. So what happened was I was so ill, I couldn't go back into corporate work, and because I would be having fits or whatever was wrong with me at the time. And I didn't want to be doing that. Plus I was, who knew how maybe I would have to stay home for a whole day. It wasn't fair to go and try and get a job with somebody else. And so I was thinking to myself, what the heck am I going to do? Because I can't do nothing, and I'm not the kind of person who can sit on the dole or anything like that. And so I went to go and help a friend move. And there was a woman there doing inventories. And I said to this woman, oh, God, what a boring job. My usual direct fashion. And she said, well, actually, it's quite lucrative. And I thought, ding dong.
Yep.
And on so many different levels, because I thought, oh my God, I could be independent, I could work for myself, nobody could check up on me to see if I was having a fit or not. You know what I mean? I could appear on the surface for everything to be fine, and in the meantime it could all be going terribly wrong in the back, but I could manage it on my own.
Yeah.
And I started doing it just with the view that I would do it until I got well again, and then I would go back into corporate. But oh my God, did I discover how much I love working for myself, and it was a wonderful way to understand how to create a business, how to understand the practicalities of managing your money in a business. I mean, when you start to run a business on your own, you suddenly have to deal with a lot of things that when you were in corporate or in another world, you weren't dealing with. You've got to deal with how am I marketing my business. I had to learn all about marketing. How am I connecting with my customers? How's my service going? You have to learn about finance. How do I manage my finances? How do I keep on top of it? How do I deal with the bank accounts? What sort of things go on for businesses that don't go on in personal accounts? How do I take payments? How do I chase up payments? A lot of the stuff when people go into business on their own, they don't actually think about. They just think about the sexy bits.
Yes.
The sexy bits, to be honest with you, can't operate without the grounding, the systems, the understanding of all the other different areas. And if you want to be any kind of an entrepreneur, and you want to be any kind of a person who's out there doing business on your own, this stuff is really, really important. And you've got to understand it. Even if you outsource it to other people, you've got to understand it. Because I know people who've outsourced it to other people, and those people have not been effective. But their knowledge has not been good enough to know those people were not effective.
Right.
So you have to have enough knowledge yourself in order to manage the people that you might bring in. as I said, I planned to do this inventory business for about 2 years. I ended up doing it for 15.
Wow.
Because I made so much money, and because also that it was just so, I just loved being free. I met the man that I wanted to marry because I was making good money, and so was he. We got married in Hawaii. We had 50 guests come to our wedding in Hawaii. We had a great honeymoon in north of San Francisco, and we just basically traveled enormously, Japan, you name it, lots of travel, lots of great stuff. So the great thing was about having my own business, I could work when I wanted to, I could earn really good money, and then I could use that money to go traveling to wherever I wanted to, because we both love to travel. So there was just so many reasons to keep it, and on top of which I ended up having 2 children during that time, a boy and then a girl, ticking the boxes that I was going.
The perfect package.
Exactly. and along the way, we were visiting France and stuff, and we had some friends in France who had this beautiful French cherry wood furniture that we just loved, because I like things that are real, I like things that are tangible, not plasticky, etc., etc. And so this stuff was basically like antiques but new. So they were made the same way antiques are made. And one of the reasons why antiques are very valued is the quality of the furniture. It's much better than what you get today. And so we were like, well, we can get new antiques. You know what I mean? And they could be antiques in time to come. And so we bought some stuff for ourselves, and our friends loved it so much, they said, we want some too. And a new business was born. So at the same time as running the inventory business, I started this importing French cherry wood furniture.
Wow.
And once we've been doing that for about 5 years, and so that took us into exhibitions and doing all sorts of stuff as well at the same time. So, lots of fingers and a lot of pie. And that was a lot of fun. But then my industry business was doing so well, and I started having 6 people working for me and all this kind of stuff. And I couldn't manage both businesses because they were both starting to flourish. So I handed the furniture business to my husband, and he didn't have quite the same level of passion for it that I did. So that furniture business lasted about 6 years, and then we on top of which, to be honest with you, we're doing it for love. It wasn't. That's the other important thing about any business. You have got to look, am I making any profit at this? And we were loving it and we were enjoying it, but it was not a profit-making business.
Yeah, and if it's not a profit, it's not a business. It's a hobby.
Absolutely, and we weren't it wasn't costing us money, but at the same time we weren't making any money. So we kind of said, well, come on, let's bag it, let's go with the business that is making money and see how we go. And then I got to, so that's kind of like my business background prior to doing what I'm doing now. But along the way, there's always been that side of me that's been a little bit kind of woo-woo. I'm much more comfortable in the secure, real world where, you know what to expect, you know what the rules are, etc., etc. And so I kind of have been a little bit reluctant to embrace my woo-woo-ness, if you want to put it that way. But then what happened was I got to 40, and it had been quite difficult to go. I had a miscarriage between my son and my daughter, and it had been quite difficult to get pregnant after the miscarriage with my daughter. But that was a bit of a challenge, and I finally got her, I got her, and I was like, yes, I got my girl. And plus, and a year later, I was 40, and for most people, when we kind of get to 40, we go, okay, now what? Right? It's a very, very common experience for around about that age group. Between 39 and 42 is a very common time to review that, because often then at that point, we have ticked all the boxes of what our parents and society expected us to do. And now we're at that point of, okay, done everything I'm expected to do, what am I going to do for the next 40 years? Presuming I'm going to live that length of time. And so I was kind of thinking about it, and I've been through a lot of emotional challenges. You can imagine going to boarding school from the age of 7, almost 8, all the way through, and not going home very often, created a lot of emotional crap, I'd like to use the word if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
That's what it feels like within me. So I've had to work through a lot of stuff along the way, and a lot of experiences that I've had have been very challenging. And I always like to think to myself that I could let those challenging experiences define me, or I can just move on learn from them and move on. And I've always learn from them and move on. However, I've always wondered, what was the purpose? What's the purpose of the challenges we have? What's the purpose of the families we're born into? What's the purpose of everything? And so I kind of got to that point where I started to say to myself, what's my purpose? What am I here to do? I want to do something that is meaningful, and, that wasn't going to kind of work. Then what ended up happening was a friend of mine died. She was only a year older than me, and she left a 7 and a 10-year-old, and that was kind of like a real shock. And sometimes that's what we need in life. We need kind of a mega shock, right? And I kind of suddenly thought, oh my God, time is short. I don't have time to, my kids might be left without a mother. I need to do something useful. I want them to have a good example to follow. Not because I want them to do whatever I do, but because I want them to see that it's possible to be whoever they want to be. And if I'm not modeling that to them, then, what am I giving them as a parent?
Right.
And then she kind of, there was that aspect. But then there was also the aspect about the sadness about her dying. And because I like to look at everything that happens in life, because basically it's easier to view it this way, I like to look at everything in life as a gift, not as something that... not something to hold you back. It's like, what on earth can this gift be in this situation that I'm doing? What can be the gift in Melanie's death? I mean, there has to be a gift to this. And what gift can there be in any death, to be honest with you, on so many different levels? And I decided that for me, I needed to turn that around, and I needed her death to be a gift to me, to wake me up and make me change my life. I no longer had any excuses. And in that way, by me actually stopping with, should I, shouldn't I, or maybe it's not safe enough, or I don't really know what I'm doing, the story that I kept telling myself, that she was going to stop me doing that. She was going to wake me up and say, you don't have time to waste.
So she was your wake-up call.
She was my wake-up call. And so when things that happen to us in life, I think one of the most useful strategies I've ever found is to take that and say, what's the gift in this? Or what gift can I give to this experience? And so that's what made me start looking for, what is my purpose? And in the process of looking for my purpose, I found this woman on the internet who was doing internet. She obviously was a student, not actually a fully qualified person, but she was doing handprints. And all you had to do was send your handprints into her. And I kind of like the fact that she called it scientific hand analysis. I had palmistry done before, and I thought it was a lot of rubbish, to be honest with you. And I didn't think that it was enough. I mean, some of it, it's like a hit and miss affair. Each person who does your palms, a palmist says something different. And some of what they say is true, not everything is true. But I like the idea of the scientific angle, and I just thought, well, I'll give it a go. It'll be a bit of entertainment. Maybe it'll give me some ideas as to what else I can do. She didn't get it completely right, and to be fair to her, I didn't really know how to take very good quality handprints, and so she was kind of trying to do handprints based on fairly smudged fingerprints. And so to be fair to her, she did not get it completely right. But there were just a few things that she got that were so spot on and so accurate that I was like, oh my God, there is something to this system. It is amazing. So then, of course, I was more interested and I wanted to find out more about it, and I got onto her regular list, and I was, listening to her, and then she was interviewing people, and she interviewed one woman who finally kind of put it all into perspective for me, and I kind of went, I like how she talks. She talks like I do, and she's kind of like putting this slightly woo-woo thing together in a very businessy way, and I'm going, that makes sense. And I'm not the kind of person who just easily spends money on everything, because I think most people, to be honest with you, I meet a lot of people in this world who just buy. Yeah. And they don't actually, and then they wonder why they have no money. And they don't actually look at what they're spending their money on and saying, do I actually need this? What do I think I'm going to get from this? So I'm not a big spender on just anything out there, because I think, and also you have to take into consideration who you are. Are you actually going to use what you buy? Right. Because a lot of the time we spend money on like a program and we never actually do the program. Right. And so I kind of looked at this and I thought, am I going to do this? Am I going to listen to this? And it's the first time I think I actually kind of put my money where my mouth was and actually bought this woman's stuff. And I was so pleased I did. I thought she was fantastic. And I still think she's fantastic. And so the more I learned about this, and then I thought to myself, I have to learn how to do this. And eventually I found out how to go, and I started my training with her, and I went on to train with other people in how to do this, but I had to go to the States to do it. Because that's the only place you can learn at the moment. You can't learn in any real way. I mean, there are other people teaching it, but they're teaching it at a lower level, not at a higher level. So, and I wanted to find out more about it, and learn also to a certain extent from the man who developed the system. And so that's what I did. But it's still all this time, by the way, I'm still doing my inventory. So it's not like I've given up my inventories and I've just done this. This at this stage is more like a self-investment kind of thing going on with a view to how can I make this into a business, because you don't get this aha straight away. Yeah. You have to just pick up the seeds of things. You have to go with what your heart is telling you, or when really kind of interests you, what you're really passionate about, you have to go with that and you have to explore it and just trust. It's going to you're going to find a way for it all to kind of come together. And when I first started, after I first started learning, I was, the first time I started doing people's hands, I didn't have very much confidence in my ability, or I didn't even know if they were going to react the way I had. So, of course, I started first of all by doing them for free, and I learned a little lesson about doing stuff for free, is that people never value anything they're given for free.
Yeah.
There's maybe 10% of the population who understand something can be very valuable even if you get it for free.
Yeah.
And then I started charging people a little bit, and the feedback I was getting was really, really good. Interesting thing was, the more I charged, the more people did with what I gave them. Whereas if it was just, 50 quid, 60 quid, here, 100 quid even, they would be, oh, that was nice, that was entertaining.
And they wouldn't do anything with the information.
Don't do anything with the information, which for me was not satisfying at all, because I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want to change people's lives. So eventually I figured this has to be a proper business. I had to learn how to communicate what I'm doing. And so, that is also the next step in any business. For a lot of people, they often have something wonderful and amazing that they have to offer, but they don't actually know how to communicate the value of what they're doing to other people, so other people will want to do it too. And so that was really my next step, was like, how do I communicate the value of this? And that required, to be honest with you, the whole business has required kind of just stepping slightly outside my comfort zone on a regular basis.
Business does that to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, having to go, I didn't really like the idea of having to ask people and say, well, what do you think of this? That's the feedback is awful.
Yeah.
Getting them to say in their words, which is really good about it, and then them not actually being as effusive as you might like them to be, and then thinking, well, maybe it really wasn't that good. But, then having to understand that not everybody communicates as effusively as I do. So, when I said to my husband, how does this outfit look? He goes, fine. And I think, oh, God, it looks awful. But fine for him is really, really good.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So it's kind of like, understanding about, really developing one's communication skills and communication is not just giving communication, but it's also receiving communication. Yes. Really, that has been a huge, I was always on that path anyway, but that has been a massive learning for me in this business too. But that's how I got into doing what I'm doing at the moment.
Okay. And so how would you distinguish scientific handprint analysis from what you would call a palm reading?
Well, I have to be honest, I haven't studied palmistry, okay? I've just experienced it, and I understand what other people tell me is different about it. My experience of it was, first of all, it seemed to be quite subjective, or it seemed to be very much, there's quite a lot of intuition that seems to go into it.
Okay.
So the person who's doing your reading for you, in some ways, it's almost the level of intuition they're capable of as to how much you get out of it. I think regular palmistry also can be predictive. And say, okay, you're going to have this many children, or you're going to, at this time in your life, you're going to become ill, and, et cetera, et cetera. It's very much like time and age related, et cetera. I hate all that. And the reason why is I'm a great believer that we actually forge our own destiny. I don't mean that destiny is not planned for us, but I believe that there are lots of different paths that we can go on depending on choices we make along the way. So in actual fact, somebody may see something in your palms that says, you're going to get ill when you're 60. But what happens if you become a health nut when you're 40?
Right, that changes everything.
Stop that happening, and yet you're always kind of like completely consumed by the fact that you might die when you're 60. And so in actual fact, if we have that information put into our heads in any way, we can sometimes manifest it. So I don't believe in ever giving people anything that is not positive to manifest. So that has been, as I say, I'm not a palmist, but that's been my experience of that. I also understand that the gentleman who actually created the system, he actually took palmistry, and he originally studied as a palmist. And what he found is palmistry is largely very much based on personality and that type of stuff, which is good and interesting. But he also found that with everything that he studied from all the different people who had written lots of different stuff about palmistry over the years, he tested everything on every set of hands that he ever met. It's like, does this mean this? Does that mean this? And he only kept those elements of palmistry which he found to be 100% true all of the time in his database. And so the palmistry he teaches, which is personality-based information that comes from the hands, is very much based on tried and tested material that is only ever 100% true.
Okay. So what types of information is stored in our hands?
Types of information. I think if we want to go slightly, we can look at it two different ways. If you want to look at it from an energetic perspective, it's how you use your energy naturally.
Okay.
Okay. From a more pragmatic perspective, you could say it's the neural pathways that you've developed in your brain. So I can tell you how you are likely to respond emotionally to situations, how you are likely to manage your energy. So like, are you the kind of person who needs to take a break? You know, go hell for leather like mad or whatever, do something for 20 minutes and then you need to take a break. Or are you the kind of person who has to go non-stop the whole day? You can go without taking a break.
Right.
All the time we judge people and we judge them based on who we are.
Right.
I need to really consider the fact that everybody is different and how they manage their energy and what they can cope with in different areas is very, very different. And nobody's right or wrong. There's positives and negatives to both types of things. And I love that you can see that in your hands. I can tell whether people are much more logical, whether they sort of tend to think in a more logical way. I can tell whether they are intuitive. And then I can say to them, don't do logic, because logic is never going to work for you. Intuition is your way forward. Whereas for other people, I might say logic is a good route for you because you're naturally highly logical. I can also tell whether people tend to live too much in their heads or they need to live. I have some people, there's some things that show with their hands called like the board of directors. And the board of directors is when you have these people who get stuck, like they can't make a decision because they don't know whether to go with their heart or with their head. And it's like this constant, board of directors discussion going on, and usually they go nowhere. As a result, and it's like about actually, I can give them strategies from that of what to deal with. I can tell what is often keeping people stuck. So that's kind of like the palmistry type information I can take from the hands. Then from the fingerprints, which is something which I think is very special and very unique, which I didn't kind of mention around the fingerprints. But the palmistry, I think that they do use fingerprints to a certain extent, but it's mostly personality based. Whereas with what I do, the fingerprints actually tell you about what is that big gaping hole that you keep trying to fill. What's going to give you meaning? What's going to give you that sense of fulfillment in your life? That's the fingerprints actually will tell you that.
Okay.
And we're always seeking, who am I? Who am I? Every comparative religion in the world, the basis of every religion is know thyself.
Yeah.
And we all say, I remember my guidance counselor at school saying, well, you can't choose your job, but you never do it till you know yourself. Right. I'm 18. How the heck am I meant to know myself?
Exactly.
Yeah. So the whole point of life really is about our self-experience, experiencing who we are and understanding who we are within the world and how we operate and how we can best operate. And our fingerprints give us the map to that. And I love that aspect of it because I believe that gives you your power, that gives you your rudder. You can stop kind of worrying about, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing this for this person? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? It's like, no, this is my path. And it's not a path that says you should go and save the whales. Right? There's no information in your hands to tell you that you should go and save the whale.
Right, it's not that specific.
It's not that specific. It's much more like you need to be the leader. You need to be the person out there in the front. You need to be making a difference. You're the kind of person who needs to live your life where you're actually feeling like you're making a mega, mega difference. And maybe you're the kind of person who needs to be in the spotlight in some way. You need appreciation and applause because if you're not getting the appreciation and applause, you're a miserable soul. Right, so I've given you a few very basic examples, but it gives you that type of stuff. It's about knowing what you need to be doing, what you need to be experiencing in order for you to be happy. Because maybe saving the whales might be you living your life purpose on one level, but maybe ultimately you might want to become the Prime Minister of the UK when you get to the top level of the same level of life purpose.
Okay.
Whatever the case may be. What job you're doing is irrelevant. It's like, is it giving you what you need? And it's about understanding what you need that liberates you and allows you to make choices that ultimately will help you. So I have one client, for instance, she regularly rings me up and she says, whenever she needs to make a decision, she says, I've got these two decisions. I'm kind of like thinking this is the really sensible decision. I should kind of do this. This makes a lot of sense. And then there's this other one that kind of feels a bit scary and I just don't know what to do. And I'll just go, based on your hands and the information that's in your hands, you'll get X, Y, Z from option A and you'll get A, B, C from option B. And then I'll kind of say, which one do you think that you're going to want? And I will often, I try not to kind of side with one, but I'll often know which one is most likely to give her the most satisfaction.
Okay.
And I'll just ask questions around that. Ultimately, it'd be her choice, but she usually goes with the one that I suggest. And she always rings me back after and says, thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You see what I mean? It's very satisfying for me to know that I'm making a difference, which helps people ultimately choose which path they want to be on. Do you know?
Right.
That helps them live their life purpose. And so that instead of them, so you know when you're aiming for something that is really going to give you meaning, going to give you satisfaction, and you kind of think, well, this looks like it'll do it. And you kind of like, it's a bit of a miss affair. It's going to hit each time, and then you have to kind of course correct to kind of make it hit.
Right.
But it's really great to be able to give people that thing that every choice they make is a hit, as opposed to having the misses.
Right. It's like we've got this all written down in our hands, but yet we can't interpret it ourselves, so we need some assistance with it. It's like you're the translator of the poem language to real life.
Well, initially, yes. I mean, my view is that basically if somebody's still coaching with me or somebody's still working with me really, really far down the path, I'm doing a rubbish job. Because my whole point is that what I want to teach people to do is how to use this information in a way that they are liberated and they can make their own choices.
Okay.
Now, some people come to me and all they need is like a workshop with me, and then they haven't even had one-to-one time with me, and that's enough. And they can use the information at a level that is enough for them. They may or they may not get the same impact as working with me at a level. I think each individual knows how much support they need, and often how much support they want.
Yeah.
The reality is, you work with me, I'm going to be pushing you, and so you may not want to be pushed.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be pushed out of your comfort zone into something very different.
Yeah, I mean, like I have another client who rang me up, and she was like, and I was just like shouting at her on the phone with love. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she just started laughing eventually. She said, Helen, I want to cry, but at the same time I want to laugh. And I said, well, yeah. I said, because I can't believe the choices you've made without checking in with me first. You just gung-ho and doing this stuff and spending all this money on all these people. But have you thought about what it is that you're trying to get from them? You know, and I was shouting at her and she's going, you know what I absolutely love about you? She said, you are so liberating because you tell the truth. And this is what you want. You want somebody in your corner sometimes who will just tell you the truth.
Yeah, no filters.
No filters whatsoever. And, you know, and I don't do it in a way because I never think people are wrong. I don't think anybody's ever wrong. And that's very, very important that we don't criticize people.
Yeah.
We just go, this is the information. What do you think? You know, absolutely bluntly, this is the information. I mean, she was paying somebody £900 a month to market something that she had created.
Wow.
And I was like, what? What are you doing? Who suggested you should use this person? What have they done for the 900 quid? You know?
What are the results that you're getting from that 900 quid?
Exactly. This is what I said to her. You need to be, when you start spending people, you know, it's very, very important to be creative. It's very, very important to kind of follow your heart and everything else, but you've also got to be very grounded.
Yeah.
And I said to her, have you sort of set out a list of expectations of what you expect for your 900 quid a month? And she goes, no. I said, why not? Well, it just sounded really good what she told me, so I thought that, you know, she would do the job. And I said, well, how does she know what you expect, and how do you know what she's going to deliver if nobody's written anything down?
Yep.
And she goes, oh, yeah, good point. I said, no wonder you're unhappy. Do you see what I mean? I'm not saying that you can't spend your 900 quid on your marketing. 900 quid on your marketing is fine, but you need to know what you expect for that 900 quid. Before you kind of like go ahead and do it.
Right.
So that people can measure it and can actually say, are my expectations being met? Is the value that I expected to get from this money being met? And ticking off this list means it's being met. But if it's not getting ticked off, it means that I have reason to come back to you and say, I have not got my money's worth, may I have some back, please?
Right.
So we all need to be practical and pragmatic along with following our hearts and following our purpose. It's about having that balance.
Yes. Yeah. So how can handprint analysis help someone with their business? Because I know a lot of the work you do does have kind of a business focus.
Oh, very much so. I mean, one of the things that I believe is that business is a wonderful way for us to actually express our purpose.
Yes.
You know, for some of us, our purpose may very well be to be a mom and be the best possible mom that we could be, or the best possible responsible dad we could be, and that's how we get our fulfillment. I know in many ways, actually, my husband's a wonderful businessman. He has a lot of stuff, but his true fulfillment comes from being part of the family, and being in the family. And so if you understand that about yourself, you stop putting pressures on yourself to do things other than that. However, if you're a little bit more like me and you kind of want to express yourself in the world in more of a way, a business is a wonderful way to do that. And the kind of things that, your hands can tell you is, what is your innate brand? So what is your innate energy that you give off? What is this feeling that you give off to other people that other people get from you without you even trying? Because a lot of companies or whatever might create a brand and say, okay, we want to be a funky, hip brand, and what colors will we need, and what logo will we need, and how can we kind of create that? But the individuals in the company might not be that themselves. But often the kind of people I work with are people who are more entrepreneurial, and they may not consider themselves entrepreneurs, but in some way might want to be running a business, even if it's a small business, all the way up to a medium-sized business. I mean, even, I suppose, bigger business people I would work with as well, but I'm dealing much more with personal brand. What is it what other people specifically get from you? So the things, aside from natural brand, what you can tell from your hands. Now, let me just explain a little bit more about natural brand, because I think this is key for everything that you can tell from your fingerprints. Ultimately, business today it's a new world. It's not running on the normal old-fashioned industrial type parameters that we do things. Business today is largely around connection, trust, and creating something new and valuable in the world, right? Because because all those other things, you can get people who are highly competent. You can get all that sort of stuff fairly easily now. People know how to do that fairly easily. But the one huge thing that is missing in the world today, and that is very highly valued, is trust. And trust is established from, and trust happens by us saying one thing and people getting the same message. So it's about message, the message that we're giving off. And when we try to be somebody, or we try to meet certain expectations, but in actual fact we're somebody else inside, other people can tell. They can't tell who we are inside, but they can tell that there's mixed messages and that we lose trust. So the first thing that it can help you do in your business is allow you to be authentic and true to who you actually are, and reflect who you truly are to the outside world, and therefore to be attracting the people who know, like, and will automatically trust you. Right? So that's one of the key things that I think that a lot of people do not get the value of on so many different levels in business. I see a lot of people out there touting their wares, sharing their stuff, and I'm going, this is so incongruent. And as a result, they can't understand why they're not getting the feedback, why they're not getting people paying them the money, why they're not suddenly making this big load of money that their last coach told them they should be making if they did that. Why? Because they're not congruent. And they're going, something's off here. I don't know what's off, but something's off. So if you understand yourself at the core, and you start to reflect that on the outside, people immediately, you've got the trust factor, because at least I can trust you to be honest.
Right.
Because we human beings are also highly intuitive, even when we're not that intuitive. We can tell. So that I think is a key factor. Also from your hands, you can tell at an advanced level, you have to be fairly advanced, but you can tell what niche really might be. And your niche can change, by the way. So what niche you might be in at the moment that would suit you the most. Because from your hands, it almost is like a reflection of where you're putting energy into your life. What is kind of, exciting you, thrilling you, and what are you naturally quite good at the moment. So that kind of stuff shows up in your hands as well. So I can tell you about your niche. I can tell you what it is that holds you back, and what the blocks are to you creating successful business. And so therefore, therefore that basically is in a way a key. Because if you understand that that's where you need to work, that's where you need to put your energy and your attention, is to actually overcoming that challenge within you, because it's the way you think. It immediately helps you to actually maybe step up into the... I think that my best example would be me, because I'm allowed to talk about me because I give permission to share my stuff, right? Right. Is my life lesson, my growth opportunity, the thing that blocks me is my self-belief, and two, not owning the fact that I'm a natural leader. And when I start to then say, okay, I know I don't want to be out there, I don't want to be telling other people what to do, but it's something that I need to learn how to do in a really positive and good way, my business took off. Do You see what I mean? Because people started to really listen to me, to pay attention to me, to be really interested in me, because I was coming across now as authentic, because they already saw my leadership potential, only I wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
That you can tell for your business. What else can you tell for your business? Target market, very much so. What else can I share with you? Natural brand. The contribution you ultimately need to be making in the world. The focus, with the type of business and the focus of the business. Mm-hmm. Not the type of business as in whether you should be in, I don't know, manufacturing special nail finishes or something like that. Not that kind of level of detail, but more like you need to be in a business that's quite creative, or you need to be in a business that's very service driven, or you need to be in a business which is very much about connecting with people, where you're constantly networking, etc., etc. Or you need to be in a business which is maybe more, detail driven, etc. That sort of information you can tell. What else can you tell? I mean, you've done my workshop.
Yes, I have. It was very, very useful.
What am I missing out? I think this is one of the problems when you're so involved in your own product, that you forget the key things that other people would find interesting.
No, I mean, the workshop it had so much, your money motivation, how money motivates you.
Because none of us are motivated by money.
Yeah.
So how do we become motivated by money? Because a lot of us will give away our services for free. Mm-hmm. Now, if we start to understand, we'll give away our services for free. So, for instance, say we love appreciation and applause. All somebody has to do is give me appreciation and applause, and I want to give them all my stuff for free.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But now if I associate money with appreciation and applause, and I look at it as like, the more people like me, the more they're going to be willing to pay me. Yeah. I'm much more willing to go for the money, because I perceive the money to be a representation of the appreciation and applause I'm getting. Mm-hmm. That's quite a complex subject for people, but I think, as Holly says, it's very clear once you've kind of done a workshop or done something.
And actually, you picked my money motivation. Creative expression in the spotlight is mine.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
There you go. So it has to be. And honestly, I never was particularly motivated by the money.
Yeah.
Until I learned that.
Yeah.
Until I started to see that I needed to map money. Money needed to represent something for me. And for each of us, it's different and it's unique.
Yeah. It's like, what is that money bringing you? What are you getting from that money? What does it represent for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what you end up doing with it.
Yeah.
But, I bet you will do loads of stuff that people will tell you what a great job you do. But you have to kind of watch yourself to not give it away for free, especially if they are masterful at appreciating it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that is the challenge.
To kind of give them more and more and more.
Yeah.
But you have to just keep saying, okay, the money. So there's more beyond it than just simply that, obviously, but it is fascinating. What else did you get out of the workshop?
Oh, loads of things. It was the workshop that I did, just so everyone knows, is the Discover Your Life Purpose workshop. And I took this workshop just as I was starting to shift my niche in my business. So I was in a time of transition, and it was really, really interesting to learn more about myself. And as we were talking about earlier, it was like, it didn't tell me anything I didn't already know, because I've been doing so much work on myself in the last few years. It was like it cemented those ideas. It said, look, these things that you've already been told, they're in your hands. That is it. It was like a confirmation of things that I'd been working on as far as challenges and things that I knew I needed to work on. It was just really, really fascinating how it just kind of confirmed so many things. I found it really, really useful. Sorry?
Maybe it's like it gave you like a table that said, all those things you've been working on, they fit into this table.
Exactly.
And the fluffy bits on the outside you could just drop.
Yep. It was like, these are your core things.
Yeah.
Well, I have a quick question. Since I'm going to be listening to this podcast from all over the world, I'm sure some of them are wondering, you're based in the UK. How can you work with clients in other countries? Can they do the handprint and send them into you, and then you work via Skype? Or how can that work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
After this call, after we finish with this call today, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm working with an American client.
Oh, great.
Yes, I've done Slovenia, Australia, New Zealand, Kenya, South Africa. There was some other Eastern European country I did too, and Scandinavia.
Oh, that's excellent.
People in Scandinavia. So effectively it just takes it's obviously, if you come and see me, I print your hands for you and we do it there and then. But if I do a personal one-on-one session with you over Skype, I'll record it on Skype. and I will send you the kit beforehand after you paid. I've learned about that about business. What you pay first. You then get sent out a kit and with an explanation of how to print your hand, and then I ask you to scan them and send them back to me so I can just check the quality of them to make sure that they're going to be accurate, because I don't want you experiencing what happened with me the first time I had my hands read. The quality of the prints that I sent the lady were not accurate. So to be fair to her, how could she do a really good job for me? I want to do a really, really good job for you. So I want to make sure that the prints are all really good. And if any fingerprints need reprinting, then I'll just say to you, can you just reprint these? Scan those. Okay, everything looks good. If I can work from the scans, I'll work from the scans and you can keep the prints. Otherwise, you send them back to me. Once we have those all organized, we book you in and we do your session.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's great. That's great. Good news. Another quick question before we wrap up. I wanted to know, do you have any business mentors or are there any women in business who inspire you or who have been really, really useful to you along your journey?
Well, I mentioned Beth Davis. I didn't say her name before, but I think that I admire her enormously because she laughs about it and she says, who knew that she calls herself a palmist, a bit of a joke kind of thing, but she says, who knew a palmist could create $1 million business? A person who's taken something that is, there are other people in the world who do this work that we do very, very well and are excellent at what they do. But how many of them can actually really, I think her gift is actually explaining to people the value in it. Yeah. So I admire how she's put herself out there to live her purpose on so many different levels and actually bring this work to many people in the world. So I do admire her enormously. In terms of, otherwise, there's not too many people out there that I think to myself, oh, wow, they're so amazing, I want to be like them. Because I tend to think of everybody as amazing. Yeah. So each person who walks through my door, what I'm seeing about them is I see that the value that they provide in the world. And I think the only reason that they're not already kind of at a level is because they need to develop their belief in who they are and the belief in the value they provide. So for me, I'm seeing the most incredible people maybe other people don't know walking through my door on a regular basis. And I think that for me puts perspective to all those other people who are already visible. Because all I'm thinking is the people who are visible are the ones you know about who are incredible. Yeah. But you are incredible too. You just have to find your incredible bit that actually that you own and that you use. And that you have to be a little brave, to be honest with you, to get out there and become successful at the very visible level. But some of us are not designed to be very visible. So something that is in our comfort zone, but we can still be very successful at what we do, but just in a different way. And so the people that I really admire in the world are often the ones who have overcome the biggest challenges to get to where they are. Okay. The ones who kind of, by the biggest challenges, I don't necessarily mean they've been raped and they've been beaten. I mean, sometimes it's the internal challenges. Yeah, getting past those fears and those blocks and those limiting beliefs. Overcoming our fears, I think, is the greatest thing we should admire in other people. And I think when people put themselves out there, even if they don't necessarily put themselves out there in a way that is 100% congruent, and we kind of think, who the heck do they think they are? We have to admire them for getting over their fears and actually putting something out there. It's the start of a process. And so that's what I would love to give people, is because that's one of the things that I hope I do for people, is to give people the inspiration and the courage to be who they are and to be comfortable with who they are and get out there in the world and share the gifts that they have available to share. I love that. Make a difference in a way that is meaningful for them. Not making a difference in a way that their parents thought they should, in the way that society thought they should, but in a way that is meaningful for them as individuals. And in what's already kind of written in their path as far as who they are. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know whether past lives exist or don't exist, but I choose to believe they do because it's a helpful belief for me. But the way that I think of it is, if I don't learn what I meant to learn this time round, I'm going to have to come back and do it all over again. Yes. So I better just get off my box and do it. Get it over with. Exactly. Get it over with, deal with it, learn what I need to learn, and do what I said I would do before I came here. And I think we should all do that. Yeah. Honestly, because I think the sense of liberation is unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. All right, Helen, well, thank you so much for sharing with us a little bit about what you do. And where can people find you online and connect with you? Well, I have a website. website. My website is called stepintoyourlight, light.com, and you can find a little bit about me there.
Okay.
You can also find me, I'm very active on Facebook.
Okay.
I mean, I am on LinkedIn under Helen Elizabeth Evans, and I am on Facebook under Helen Elizabeth Evans, and I'm on Google Plus and a lot of those other places. But I think the place that I'm most active is Facebook.
Okay.
So feel free to connect with me there or any of my Facebook pages, two of which are Your Life Purposes and Your Fingerprints and Step Into Your Light. Those are both Facebook pages too.
Good. I'll include the links to those in the show notes.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And I really hope that people connect with you online so they can learn a little more about what you do, because it's very, very fascinating. And I love how it gets to the core of who we are, and it can just truly help us with our businesses. So very, very helpful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Holly, for giving me the opportunity to share more about what I do. I mean, ultimately, what I would really like is I would like every person by the age of 12 to know what's in their fingertips.
I love that.
That we'll make choices then, won't we, that will be right for us in terms of what we do at university, what we do at school, and we'll stop kind of living lives based on other people's expectations.
Well, hopefully someday we'll get to that point where people are open enough to bring their children to handprint analysis.
Oh, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you for listening. Hope you found this old episode interesting and useful. Drop me a line and let me know what you thought about it. You could email me at holly@hollywharton.com or find me online and get in touch. I would also love to see you on Patreon. If you head over to patreon.com/hollywharton, you can join me there. Membership starts at just $1 a month, and you'll get exclusive access to content that I won't be sharing anywhere else, but you will also get access to done for you, heart-centered energy work, and Site K, depending on what tier you join me at. So I would love to see you there. Again, it's patreon.com/hollywharton. That's it for today. I will be back again on Monday with a normal, fresh episode. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/3 for the show notes on today's episode. Thanks again, and have a great week. Thank you so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for the topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and learn more about business mindset, join my private community for entrepreneurs at hollywharton.com/group. That will redirect you to the Facebook group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you so much.